Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Plural Verbs. In the last few episodes, we have seen different aspects of verbs. We started with verbs by functions, which included main verbs, auxiliary verbs, and linking verbs, and we continued with verbs by tense formation, that is regular and irregular verbs. Today we are here in this video discussing something on verbs by numbers. Well, does it sound strange? We have seen numbers only in mathematics. Do we have numbers in English grammar too? Yes, we have numbers. You know them. They are singular and plural forms. Yes, in English grammar, singular and plural forms are called the numbers. So, there are only two varieties of numbers, singulars and plurals. When something is one, we call it as singular form, and when something is many, we call it as plural. Well, this rule applies, or this learning applies to nouns. We have applied singulars and plurals for nouns and of course pronouns. When something like one cat, we call it as cat, which is a singular, and when there are many, we call them cats, which is plural. Look at a very common aspect here. When we add yes at the end, generally we are converting singular form to a plural form when it comes to verbs. A noun can be a physical entity, like something that we can touch, like cat, dog, a mango, bus, box, anything. Or it can be a process, like a work. Okay, so in either it's a physical thing or a process, we generally add yes to convert that into a plural form from the singular form when it comes to nouns. Does it work the same way in verbs as well? No. The rule is exactly opposite when it comes to verbs. In the verb formations, when something is singular, then s is added at the end of the verb in its root form. For example, if there is a verb jump in the root form, we add s to make it singular verb. So, jumps is a singular verb here. What about jump? Jump is the plural form of the verb. So, this is one thing that we have to really remember. There are two ways to remember it. The one way is to remember in a very simple way, that is, the formation of verbs is exactly opposite to the formation of nouns when it comes to numbers. In nouns, s is added to make it plural, s is not added when it is singular. But when it comes to verbs, s is added to make it singular. If s is not added, that's the plural form of the verb. That's one way. The second way is, look at the letter yes. When yes is added at the end of a verb, then that yes indicates singular. So you can remember yes for singular. So whenever yes comes at the end of a verb, that is a singular form of the verb. When yes doesn't come, that is a plural form. If you quickly recall, nouns, the singular forms of the nouns can be converted to their plural forms by either adding yes or es or ies for most of the words. Almost same rules apply even for verbs when we have to convert a plural verb into a singular verb. That is, we either add yes at the end of a verb, or we add es, or we add ies at the end of a verb. As I told, the rules almost remain the same for the conversion. When a verb ends with either an s or an x or sh or ch or z, we normally add, when the verb ends with one of these letters, we normally add es at the end. For example, if there is a verb ending with yes, okay, so something like miss, then the singular form of miss would be misses. We are adding es to that. So when we have the words that end with x, okay, for example something like box. So box, you know, boxing, so the box is a verb form of that, so we can say boxes, boxes, okay. Mike Tyson boxes well. Similarly, when we have ch, something like catch is a verb, catches, we are adding es to that. We have something called finish as a verb, finishes, okay, he finishes first. So for all these formations, we add es to make the plural forms of the verb into the singular form of the verb. Then there is another category where the verbs end with y. We have seen so many such verbs in the previous video. Quickly recalling, we have something called as beautify, clarify, nullify, rectify, amplify. In all these cases, these are the verbs that end with y. In such cases, you just have to change that y into I and then add es to that. So beatify is beautify, which is the plural form of the verb. To convert that into singular format, you have to just remove the y at the end and add es, that is beautiies. It becomes beautifies. So that's the way we either add es or we add ies at the end by removing y. In most of the other verbs, we just add yes. It may be jump or look or eat or care or love, whatever it is. We just add yes to make that into the singular form of the verb. Now the important question is, why should we learn the singular and plural forms of verbs? Well, in English, either spoken or written, we have a rule that while forming a sentence, the subject and verb should agree, should match. This is called subject-verb agreement. What is a subject? For now, let us take subject is a noun and verb is an action. Anything that does an action is called as a noun, and anything, the work that we do, is a verb. Now when we say dog barks, so look at the sentence, dog barks. Dog is a singular and barks is also singular. Remember the rule, when s comes at the end of the verb, it's a singular. Dog barks, that is the right sentence. There is a balance because dog is a singular, barks is also singular. There is a subject verb agreement. So this is singular and singular, they are matching. When there are many, we call them dogs, many. So many means plural. Then the verb should also be many. That is, verb should also be plural. So we should have dogs bark. So remember, when there is no yes, that is plural with respect to verbs. Dogs bark. So these two sentences are correct. Dogs bark is correct and dog barks is correct. But if you mismatch them, that is not an appropriate English sentence. If you say dogs barks, yes should not come in both the ways, both the sides. It's wrong. So when there is a singular subject, there should be a singular verb. When there is a plural subject, there should be a plural verb. Similarly, when it comes to auxiliary verbs, especially primary auxiliary verbs, the singular primary auxiliary verbs are is, are, am, has and does. These are singular auxiliary verbs. Similarly, what are plural auxiliary verbs? Plural auxiliary verbs are, were, have, do. These are plural auxiliary verbs. So we just need to remember that singular auxiliary verbs should be used with singular subjects, because subject or subject verb agreement. For example, if I am saying Rahul, who is a singular, one person, we should use either is or was or has or does in this case. When there are many people, when we have they, so we should use they is plural, so we should use plural auxiliaries, something like they are, they were, they have, they do. Okay. So similarly with negatives, for example, they don't or they do not, they were not, they have not. So all these things should be used here. So we have to remember what are the singular auxiliaries and what are the plural auxiliaries. It's okay with most of the other auxiliary verbs, but I've seen many people committing mistakes with do and does. These are the two auxiliary verbs that confuse most of the people, because if you say she don't know English, that sentence is wrong, because she don't know English is split into she do not know English. She do, are they matching? She is singular, do is plural. So singular and plural should not come, as we have learned. Singular and singular should come to call it as a subject verb agreement. So here she and do not agree, they do not match. So it should be she does not know English. So that should be the proper sentence here. So I've seen so many people saying she don't know English, she do not know English, which is wrong. So she does not know English is the right way of telling it. More challenging is the case with framing questions, keeping the number of subject and number of verbs in mind. That is to create an agreement between them. It's like, hmm, does she give her pens to her friends? Or does she share her books with you? So, does she share? Here it seems to be a little complicated because does is a verb and she is a pronoun, so subject, and she is singular, so does should be used, so they are matching. Then we have another one which is main verb called share or give. Does she give? Does she share? Most of the people even commit mistake here, so they simply say does she shares, does she gives. So right, that's wrong. So the matching should take place between only the subject and the auxiliary verb here, again not with repeatedly, not with the main verb. So when a sentence has both main verb and the auxiliary verbs, the agreement should take place only between the subject and the auxiliary verb. So main verb which comes later should be ignored, or it should be in the plural format only, because it should be in the root format, in the base format. So it should be always does she share her food with others, does she give her clothes to others. So does she give, does she share, or something like that. If it is do, if it starts with do, then the subject should be plural. For example, do they go uh, to the fair? So even here, do they go? So here, do they go or don't they go to the movie? So don't they go here again. So since we have already used do or don't, which are plural forms of the verbs, and they is also plural, so they are matching. So they is they, the word they is matching with the do. That's enough. We don't have to again put goes or anything like that. Let it be in the base form. So do they go? Okay. So do they, don't they go? So to the movie. So here this is how the agreement should take place. You should be very careful when we are framing sentences to match the subject with its verb. Both of them should be of same number. So when directly the main verb is there, then that main verb should match with the subject. If there is an auxiliary verb, match that auxiliary verb with the subject, and if there is an auxiliary verb, forget about the main verb, let it be in the base form. So this is all about the numbers with respect to verbs. Before I end, I just have a funny thing to share. We have seen so many examples throughout the video. We have seen about Rahul, we have seen about dog, we have seen about they, we have seen so many examples. How about I and you? So I and you do not follow the normal subject agreements that we have seen so far. So there is much to discuss on that aspect, but on the lighter note, I and you do not follow these rules because I and you are special. Thanks for watching this video. Let's meet with some other aspects of verbs in the next video.